Alrighty, I think we're live. Um, so I have until 8:50, uh, and we're gonna spend these 30 minutes together, working on the Physiology VIVA document. So I'll just have like a 30-minute timer, right? Just for giggles, right? So 30 minutes. Let's make a new one. 30 minutes, and we'll call this Wowza time, right? Let's get started. So, of course, uh, you know, the goal is simple. We are going to get some questions done, right? Okay, first question is to classify hormones. Now, that actually isn't that much of a, you know, atrocious question. It's pretty, straightforward. Of course, it's a Viva question, so the detail needs to be to a minimum, so that the person, when they're studying this, when they're trying to learn it, the goal is that कि उसे याद करने में आसानी हो, right? So, of course, the way answers are provided in the document beforehand, I personally have objections to the way they are answered, because that's not how you're supposed to talk in a Viva. Um, so let's try to keep it natural, but at the same time, let's try to keep it more simple. So hormones, you would generally start off with the fact that hormones, strictly, right? So three main types, and then you can, go into more detail, like let's say protein and polypeptide hormones, right? Um, you could say examples, uh, like growth hormone, right? Insulin, parathyroid hormone, right? And what would be like, so that these are examples, right? What would be like, you know, like the distinguishing factor, like what are they, right? So they are water soluble, of course. And yeah, that's a pretty good point, that they're water soluble. And that's basically it. I don't think we need to go into more detail, right? We're gonna change up this. We're gonna make it, like I don't like these. Probably gonna go with something like this, or like that. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so hormones, three main types: with protein, polypeptide. They're water soluble in nature, right? And of course, the example is growth hormone, insulin, and polypeptide, right? Now the question is, like, the question might come, where are they secreted from? So they are secreted by the pituitary gland, pancreas, and parathyroid. Right? So उस हिसाब से examples भी दे दिए. What's next? So the next classification is, of course, steroid hormones. Right? So what about steroid hormones? They are lipid soluble. What would be good examples? Cortisol, estrogen, and testosterone, right? So simple examples. Where are they secreted from? You have your adrenal cortex and essentially your gonads, right? I'm sure I'm missing one, but right. So I'm gonna just write etc. here. Or I remember it's progesterone, right? Yeah, progesterone. Okay, I think we're good. So steroid hormones, lipid soluble, adrenal cortex. Um, you know, uh, another point that can be important for steroid hormones is that they're derived from cholesterol, right? That's an important point. I think that is good. Um, that's good. What about the third class? That is basically your amino, or you could say tyrosine based. Now, what do I mean by tyrosine based? Um, so, of course, they are derived from the amino acid known as tyrosine, and you have D3, D4 as your examples, and you have your epinephrine, dash nor, and norepinephrine as you know good examples. Um, where do these come from? You have your thyroid gland and the adrenal medulla. Okay, so simple enough. You know, three main types: protein and polypeptide hormones. They're water soluble in nature. They're secreted by the pituitary gland, the pancreas, and parathyroid gland. Examples are growth hormone, insulin, and parathyroid hormone. Let's make the examples in a different color. Let's take green. Right? Sorry. Okay. So yeah, I think that's pretty decent. I don't think we need to go into more detail about their specific actions and how they act and so on and so forth. Right? That's not a necessity. Um, okay, what is the location of hormone receptors at target organs? So now that's a good question. Um, also, basically, like an additional detail on top of this. Um, how would you go about this? So I know, of course, it's gonna be classifications हैं कि डिपेंड करता है हार्मोन की किस्म पे जैसे there are basically cell membrane receptors, cytoplasmic receptors, and nuclear receptors, right? So um, you have to have like a bit of detail per se of those types, right? So no pressure. Let's get to it. So um, so they depend. Let's get black available for us. So they depend on the type of hormone, right? And that's like a key point. So let's say I say on the cell membrane, right? So my point would be that they're basically protein slash peptide, uh, and even what do you call those epinephrine, non-epinephrine ones? Catecholamine, protein, peptide, and catecholamine hormones, right? So now I think that's a pretty decent thing. You could go into detail um, that they are, like we already mentioned that they're water soluble. So you could mention they act via second messengers, right? That's a pretty decent point. So the other one is in the cytoplasm. Now, इसके अंदर क्या है? Like these are basically your steroid hormones, right? इनकी क्या खूबियत है? They easily cross to the membrane and they bind to the cytoplasmic receptors, right? So I think we're pretty good in that regard. Um, and the third one is in the nucleus. These are the most direct. So इसके अंदर हमारे पास thyroid hormones की मिसाल है, ठीक है. इसके अंदर बेसिकली क्या होता है कि they bind to nuclear receptors, which leads to gene transcription. Okay, and I think that is pretty decent. I don't think we need to go into more detail in terms of this, right? So we're gonna simply, I think we're good. So I'm gonna change it up, change this whole thing up essentially. Yeah, okay, pretty good. Um, मिसाल को हम वो कर देते हैं green, right? Because that's the color code we're sort of following here. Okay, pretty good so far. Alrighty, I think we're good. We can add images, right? So location of hormone receptors. Let me see if I can find an image. Huh. Types of hormone receptors, like a better search word. And let's look for illustration. Um, yeah, nothing. Why though? Like, nope. Okay, no luck by the looks of it. Huh, this is decent, but still too much detail. Thing is, detail's not that good. I don't agree with too much detail. I think I'm okay with just the minimum amount of it. Okay, can't find any good images. Um, that does make me pretty sad. Um, but we'll make one. How about it, right? Let's make one by our own self. Take a simplified image. Let's look for that. Simplified. No. Oh well. Back to it. How receptors activate after binding of hormones? How is the receptor uh, binding? Okay, got it. So how is the receptor activated after binding hormones to its receptor? Um, of course, like the what do those receptors do, right? So different receptors for different types of hormones, and of course they tend to act accordingly. Um, you know, of course, like every answer starts with literally it depends on the type of receptor and of course on the type of hormone, right? So yeah, it's pretty interesting. So now here, when it says hormones binding to a receptor, um, so of course you shall start off with the simple fact that of course um, this depends, right? This depends on the type of receptor, and then of course you'll begin with like ion channel link receptors, talk about them, hormone binds, and okay. So you could say acetylcholine के साथ it's a neurotransmitter. सही है? I think that's pretty good. I'm sorry, not feeling so well. Let me see how the stream is going. Sawal mo right? On the cell membrane. Right, so okay, we're good. Let's get back to it. So ये हो गया. उसके अलावा G protein link receptors है. So hormone binds, G protein activated. Okay. I think this is pretty decent, right? G protein के बारे में कि हार्मोन बाइंड करता है, G protein एक्टिवेट होता है. ऊपर सेकंड मैसेज को एक्टिवेट करता है, मिसाल ADH या एपिनेफ्रिन. सही है. और तीसरा कोर्स एंजाइम लिंक रिसेप्टर्स. इसके अंदर hormone binds activates enzyme activity. Mostly tyrosine. This leads to मिसाल क्या इंसुलिन की ग्रोथ हार्मोन सही है जी। अब इसके अंदर इफ यू नोटिस इसके अंदर उसके बारे में नहीं लिखा हुआ, क्या नाम है आपका, स्टेरॉइड हार्मोन्स मैंने एक दफा भी जिक्र नहीं किया, तो ऑफ कोर्स you need to mention steroid hormones as well. Where would those come in? Um, those are intracellular receptors, right? So intracellular receptors, basically the hormone binds, and इसके साथ क्या होता है कि भाई वो activates क्या कहते हैं, leads to gene transcription. Like this is like a very very simple example, right? Like of course के अंदर proper like pathways हैं about how it's done. So steroids and thyroid hormone. ठीक है, of course examples को हम ग्रीन में कर देते हैं. Okay. Um, there should be like a way to remember, uh, you know, your क्या नाम है hormones की types, right? So, um, you know, there should be like a way. So the hormones, like the mnemonic should be Pepset, right? Sorry, mnemonic for memory. Okay, I think we're pretty much done the justice by having this mnemonic available. Okay. Okay, next question. Oh, I mean, this one is like, come on, right? Oh, sorry. Oh no. Oh, holy cow, that should not happen. But it did happen. Anyhow, um, yeah. So, oh shoot. Okay, one more question before we log out. And second messengers. So, could be any. There's no like set bound on this. So, I mean, I'll just make a list. So you have cyclic, of course, cyclic AMP. I'm now going to go in nuclear cyclic GAMP, right? Cyclic GMP, CGMP. Then you have your uh, calcium calmodulin complex. And then you have your phospho AC pathway. Right? You see the IP3 and DHBs. Okay. Same. Of course, the same with it. Legs and stuff like that. And increase the size. So click right now. Alrighty. Okay, final stretch. So ADH, specifically V2, PTH, catecholamines, TSH, ACTH. Right? So you could go with any. I think these examples are good enough, right? Like, इससे ज़्यादा तो फिर कुछ ज़्यादा ही हो जाएगा. ठीक है. Use tyrosine kinase activity. Well, enzyme based basically. Okay, I think with that we're done. We just need to finish. I'll just do one more question. You know, because I can. Okay, so you have insulin, of course, growth hormone. That's like the famous pathway called Jack Stat, and then you have prolactin, right? So prolactin, for example, that's also Jack Stat. I think we're good. Yeah, we're good enough. Okay, so with that, I shall call it a day. Not quite a day, but I'm going to take a break for Isha. I'm going to return back at around 9:15 probably, or around 9:30, and then we'll resume and finish off this awesome question bank. Right, so we've done around 6 in like 30 minutes. Not bad at all. Okay, I think I bid you farewell.